Hello guys and welcome back to TomTalks, the best place to come if you want to talk about music, video games, TV and other things. Today we're going to be talking about the third studio album from Norwegian singer-songwriter AURORA, The Gods We Can Touch. AURORA came onto the scene in 2016 with the album All My Demons Greeting Me as a Friend, which included Conqueror, the first song from her I heard that was on FIFA, and the recent Runaway, which was an amazing track and has gained traction because of TikTok. She then released like a two-part project, the first of which was an EP called Infections of a Different Kind, which was this amazing album which showcased her amazing songwriting ability and the varied style and production she uses. And then the second part was A Different Kind of Human, which was an album which was a lot more mainstream, a lot more poppy. I think it lost a bit of that uniqueness, but it was still a solid record, even if like the first half of the record was not as good lyrically and the production didn't quite do it for me. But it was still a good record overall. She's now back with this album and I've enjoyed a lot of the singles, whether that be first song on this album, Everything Matters, which is this like very minimalist, simplistic production. It emphasised her great vocal inflection, hitting the high notes at the end of each sentence to sort of emphasise it. It's a great song about sort of the journey of love, comparing it to like a car journey with this person. I think it's a great way to start the project. Another fantastic single was Giving Into Love, which has got this pounding beat which fits well with her raspy and angelic delivery. I think it's a great track. It's kind of talking about how we should learn to love ourselves and look for love rather than trying to look a certain way based on what society says about us, which is emphasised well in the line, someone out there is trying to find somebody who is not dying, but everybody cries and nobody comforts, the television lies and now my mind hurts. It's a very deep and poignant track. It's across well this message of self-love and rejecting what society thinks is best for you. It's a great single. Another fantastic single, they come thick and fast on this album, Cure for Me. It's got that three-verse structure of you expect of a pop track, but it's got this trance and EDM influence in the beat and it distorts her vocals to match that. It just bangs. It's a proper slapper. It's about a lover blaming the faults in the relationship on her, but her saying she doesn't need to change, she doesn't need to find the cure, she's not done wrong here. I think it fits well with these albums' themes of love and loving yourself and trying to deal with toxic relationships and get over them. It's also talking about these godly themes of like human beings find this balance between sort of feeling great about yourself but also not feeling self-righteous, sort of finding this balance where you love yourself but you don't think you're the complete and utter shit. And I think that track encapsulates that well. You Keep Me Crawling is probably the low point on the album. The synth pop production is found on other tracks on this album, but it's done a bit better. And it's about her being hurt because she feels weak in comparison to this person. She feels like she needs him, but he's not good for her. I think this theme is done better on other tracks on the album, and I don't think the lyricism here is as interesting, but it's still an okay track. It's not terrible or anything. Exist for Love was another fantastic single. I think it's really emotional. It's this quiet and somber like love ballad which touches on the importance of love and how it can make a person feel whole. It made me a bit sad because I was like, oh, I wish I could have that in my life, but hey ho. It's an amazing track, and you really can tell the emotion of AURORA in the lyrics she delivers here. Heathens fits into that godly theme. Heathens, of course, being people who disrespect or don't follow the religion of God. It's very melancholic, and she's talking about like how Eve gave people the ability of free will, but at the same time this has its negatives, like human beings do bad because of it and they give in to lust. It's about, again, finding that balance. Having free will is good, but you have to use it in the right way and not in a way for selfish or personal gain. I think it's a very interesting concept and it fits well into this God theme of the album's title. I like how bare bones the instrumental is because it kind of puts attention on the vocals and you really can delve into the lyrics here. I think that's a very good feature of this track. The Innocent is another cool track. It's got this position of like a piano player you'd expect in like a late night club, alongside these like gospel like vocals. It fits well though, so that's good. And it's about like the innocence never being enough for people, her being messed about a bit, and there's references to like Hades with the talk of lava, and also talk of being drowned in a river. The end as well, what I quite liked was it sounded like somebody distorted the sound of somebody wheeling up a track, which is not what I expected from an Aurora single, or song I should say. But yeah, I think I didn't quite get the message of this track, but I did like what was going on, and it sounds good, and I think lyrically it's very interesting. There's a lot of metaphors in Aurora's music, and I won't get all of them straight away. Repeated listens may help there, but I think it's a great track. So Inhale is a track I did get. It starts with her harmonising, again showing off that vocal ability, and this very sympathetic beat, which with these like distorted electronic erratic sounds throughout. So it matches the theme well, about people needing help but not quite knowing how to get that help. It's focusing on the earth burning and pollution. A very earthly sounding track. I think could quite easily have fit in on that last project, but it still fits well here, and I think it fits into the themes of toxicity, trying to help yourself rather than stay in this sort of bad position you're in. Temporary High again fits that as well. It's about love and sex and how it's like a temporary high, it's not the permanent solution, but also it's making these metaphorical references to Aphrodite and how her sort of openness to her sexuality and who she is kind of scares this guy. Maybe a reference to how not all men feel as comfortable with women being open sexually, even in this day and age. I know. The most interesting thing about this is like the synth pop beat, which sounds like it could have easily come from the 80s. And I did get a bit of a Dua Lipa physical vibe from it, but I still think it's a great track, and like the pumping beat really gets you going, and the aggressively like strum guitars as well, I think sets it out a little bit from that track. It was a great single, and it works well here. A Dangerous Thing moves things back into a more acoustic direction. It's about the dangers of a relationship, the highs, the lows, and how it was doomed to fail for her. And the lyrics are really crushing. I mean, something about you is warm and seductive, and when you're with me, you're cold and abusive. It's obviously highlighting the fact that there's women in society who feel trapped in these relationships, unfortunately get physically and emotionally abused, as we've seen with cases in this country with like Sarah Everard and the stuff to do with Mason Greenwood. These things do happen, and it's very sad, and I commend Aurora from being open and honest about what's happened to her and putting it into a music to sort of give women a message that you're not alone, I've got out of this place and so can you. And I think it's very good at putting across that message, and again I think it fits into the themes of the album very well. Artenius, I think I've got that right. Interestingly, she's a goddess of wild animals, the hunt, vegetation, chastity, and I think it fits in well with this album. It's got a very Celtic feel. That harmonica solo is, it's fantastic. And the guitar sounds, and Aurora sounds very sort of Celtic on this track as well. She's talking about being free and wild and being able to be yourself, being like a wild animal, which Tennis was the goddess of. So I think that track does it justice. Blood in the Wine continues this sort of Celtic vibe. There's also influences from Indian music and the way Aurora delivers her vocals. It's very raspy again, and it gives me a very tribal vibe. It's got like a Roman vibe to it as well. I do love how Aurora's music does have that sort of old school vibe. By old school I mean like the 300s. And there's no shame in being animalistic. You shouldn't be fitting in with what society says, and I think there's some truth in that, about going back to basics a bit. Maybe not hunting mammoths and stuff, that's a bit far. I do think this track does do that well. This Could Be a Dream could have been a fitting closer. I like the synthetic 808s production. It's very minimalistic. A bit of brass in there as well, which gives us yet another instrumental palette to cleanse. Again, it feels like a kind of fitting conclusion. She needs to know if this love is real or a dream, saying, but I wish I knew how it felt to run, and I sing sometimes to I'm alive. She's not 100% sure if what she's feeling is true, if it's real. She wants to get to the bottom of it, and again, it fits into the themes of this album. Is she in love with this person? Is this person right for her? I think it doesn't come to any conclusions about that, but we don't always come to those conclusions straight away, and maybe the conclusions will be reached on the next album. We end things with a little place called The Moon, which for a large part is quite quaint. The production is very aesthetic, matching the title about going to the moon. Mostly her harmonising, but it kind of ends with her saying, kind of knows where she's at now and she wants to go to the moon. Now, is the moon of finding love in herself? Is it just a place she needs to go? Is it being happy with the person that she's seeing? I'm not 100% sure, but it does feel like a good conclusion to this album overall. Aurora, The Gods We Can Touch. I thought this was a really good album. I think the themes here of the gods, love, relationships, the highs and lows, humanity and the pressures of society, I think are all well done here. I love the completely different instrumental palettes this direction goes in. While there's a lot of acoustic elements and synth pop, I think it all meshes well together, and there's like lots of other influences. We got a brass on here, we've got wind instruments like the harmonica, influences from Celtic music, Indian music. Just love the variety on offer on this album, and I think Aurora is of course a fantastic singer who has a variety of different vocal inflections, and I just think this album works very well. A bit at odds with what to give this. I was kind of between an 8 and an 8.5. So to be awkward, I'm going to give this an 8.25 out of 10 because I'm indecisive. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Aurora's third album, The Gods We Can Touch. One of the best albums I think I'll be hearing this year. Have you heard it? What are your thoughts on it? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you want to know about more content. But until next time, this has been another TomTalks.